Hello and welcome to this month's edition of NearTV. We've a great show lined up for you, so make sure you stay tuned for our film review, episode 2 of SpaceTime. And we took to the streets on the day before the Greek referendum on proposed bailouts to see what some of the people of Ireland who were following a no vote had to say. We've all that and much, much more. But before any of that, we start with episode 2 of SpaceTime, where David Moore speaks to us about the planet Mars and one of the more mysterious features in the universe, black holes. Hello and welcome to SpaceTime. I'm joined in the studio by Mr. David Moore of Astronomy Ireland. And today we are going to be taking a look at Mars. Mars, obviously a planet that has captured the imagination throughout history. So what is it exactly that gives Mars that deep red colour?
It's basically iron compounds. Really, it's like rust.
Okay.
There's a lot of iron oxidized in the soil. And you see red sand on the Earth. It's the same thing. There's lots of iron mixed in with rocks throughout the solar system, the Earth included. We're all made of the same stuff after all. Nothing exotic on Mars compared to the Earth. And so it's that sandy dust that we're seeing. Okay. And the problem is the water escaped a long time ago, probably because Mars' core set solid. Ours is still molten, as we see from volcanoes and earthquakes all the time. But on Mars, it's almost certainly set solid, or it's certainly not as fluid as the Earth is. It's no magnetic field that doesn't protect it from the radiation of the sun, and that stripped the water away and the atmosphere over billions of years.
So there's evidence that Mars used to be a rather vibrant planet, not dissimilar to ours.
In the first billion years of Mars history, it was probably similar to the way the Earth is now. That it was a lot of water on the surface. The atmosphere was thicker. Even though it's a smaller planet, it's half the size of the Earth. Gravity is about a third. So you'd only weigh a third of what you weigh here on the Earth. But there wouldn't have been oxygen and things like that because plant life on the Earth seeded our atmosphere with the oxygen that we as animals need to breathe in. But that could have happened had life had a chance to evolve. And the big question is, did life evolve? Because it seemed to evolve on the Earth very quickly after the Earth cooled down and then got killed off by the conditions getting terrible. Or did the life somehow go below the surface and it's been eking out a miserable existence since then? Maybe it went extinct at some stage between the two. And there are missions trundling around the surface of Mars now, trying to characterize the environment, and other missions plan to go there to look for the actual life. And of course the missions will go to Europa as well. So hopefully during our lifetime we'll find out, is there life in the solar system? And if there is, if life exists in two places in the one solar system, and we think there's about 40 billion Earth-like planets in our galaxy alone, then the universe could be teeming, at least with simple life, and who knows about intelligent life. I mean, it could actually be a Star Trek scenario out there with lots of alien civilizations. The only problem is the distances in space are enormous. And it's really hard to imagine how big they are. And not only with technology, but the kind of physics that we understand and the laws of the universe. It's very hard to understand how you could generate a system that would enable you to move between the stars. Moving between the planets takes decades with current technology. The stars is going to take hundreds of thousands of years. And on human life scale times, that sort of makes it difficult to see how we're ever going to travel that way. But you know, there are theoretical ideas like wormholes and the like, which are highly hypothetical. But if they turned out to be real and we can tap them, maybe we'll find that technology in the future.
Exactly, it'd be the shortcut to the stars that we need. And in terms of travel, I mean, obviously we've landed on the moon many years ago, and there was the political impetus to get there. Is there still the same drive to get to Mars? Like, are we ever going to get there soon?
There is a little bit of a race going on. The Chinese built their own space station now. They've got their own rockets that can put people into space. The Russians, of course, can put people in space, and the Americans and the European Space Agency, working with the Americans, can do it as well. So only the big nations can currently do it. And if the Chinese were to get involved with the Americans in a race to Mars, then that could bring back sort of some of the Cold War scenario that we had, that it would become a question of national pride. But it's probably more likely that because it's so expensive and so difficult, that it'll be an international mission and people will go to Mars. You know, as we overpopulate this planet, we're going to need somewhere else to live. Mars is the most hospitable planet, still not a nice place to live. But with relatively simple technology, you could live on Mars. And that's more or less what we did when we conquered the Americas. The first pilgrims there died in their masses because they didn't know how to farm the land there. It was actually the locals, the Native Americans, that taught them how to farm there. We wouldn't have the USA as the power that it is today if it weren't for that. Now, there are no Native Americans or Native Martians on Mars to help there, but hopefully our technology will enable us to actually overcome any problems that you find when you actually try to live on Mars.
One of the most forbidding and mysterious objects in the universe is a black hole. Massive and powerful almost beyond belief, black holes warp space and time itself. Just what happens inside the centre of this churning heart of darkness is still a mystery. I asked David to tell us more.
Well, the strict definition of a black hole is just an object that has such strong gravity that nothing can escape the surface, including light. Okay. So technically, if light fell on it, it would go in, nothing can ever shine off it, it would be black. Turns out actually they're actually the brightest objects in the universe, because as things go screaming down this cosmic plug hole, never to emerge again, the friction that they cause actually makes them glow extremely hot, hotter than white hot into the ultraviolet X-rays. And so black holes end up causing the brightest things in the universe. A quiet black hole minding its own business will be black. So they're absolutely fascinating objects. And to crush matter down to make the gravitational fields that you need is phenomenal. You take the Earth, for instance, and you would have to shrink it down to something the size of a marble. Wow. And there's no technology that can do that. But it turns out giant stars, when they end their lives, and these are stars much bigger than the sun, they get very unstable in their cores, and they end up exploding. And that can crush the core of the star to create a black hole.
Black holes are fascinating objects that have many intriguing features. What you are seeing is an artistic representation of a black hole. The rotating ring of gas in the foreground is called the accretion disk. This is caused by the gravitational energy of the black hole as it churns in space. The immense friction and gravitational energy are converted into heat and then light. We also see a ring of energy above and below the black hole in the centre. This is not a separate entity, but the same accretion disk just mentioned. The intense gravity around the black hole bends the light up and over and also underneath the black hole. This is known as gravitational lensing. This same effect distorts the light of the stars behind the black hole as well. The event horizon in the centre is the point of no return. Once something passes this crucial point, it can never ever come back out. At this point, nothing, not even light, can escape the power of the black hole. What happens past this point is unknown.
It turns out now we're pretty sure that all galaxies have a black hole at the centre. Some of them have giant black holes. The one at the centre of our galaxy is about 5 million times the mass of the Sun, so 5 million suns stuck together, if you like. Wow. But there are ones that are 1,000 times bigger than that in other galaxies. And the question is, why do some of them have black holes that are 1,000 times bigger? Another interesting about the black hole is it turns out it's controlling the development of the galaxy itself. And it was an Irishman, Dr. John Magorian, who figured this out. It's called the Magorian effect, after him. And if the black hole didn't slow up the evolution of a galaxy, then the Sun wouldn't have been here in a more or less stable galaxy long enough. And so we wouldn't have had time to evolve. So we owe our existence to the black hole at the centre of our galaxy. And probably all other galaxies, if they have intelligent life, have a similar story to tell.
They have the same depth.
It's remarkable, it's a nice Irish angle to the whole thing.
Exactly, yeah. So obviously we see black holes when objects stray too close and get sucked in towards the centre, but it's not just space they distort, but time as well.
Yeah, crazy things happen at the surface of black holes because Einstein became famous for his theories of relativity, and the main thing he assumed was that the speed of light is the maximum speed in the universe. No thing can go faster than that. Right. And once he made those assumptions, did the mathematics behind it, he came up with these great theories of relativity that made him so famous. And with a black hole, when the matter falls in, you get what's called time dilation. Right. And this would happen even if you didn't have a black hole, but you travel very close to the speed of light. I see. It's a relatively simple piece of mathematics. They teach it in first year university. Nothing overly complicated about it. And it shows that time will, if you could hit the speed of light, if you and I are traveling speed, time would actually stop. So somebody, if they could look at us whizzing by at the speed of light, and they saw a clock in our spacecraft, the clock would stop. Wow. Well, if we were looking out, we'd see their clock speeding up. You get all these crazy effects.
Space and time are so closely linked that the term SpaceTime was coined to describe it. When a black hole distorts space, it also distorts time as well. This simple graphic will help visualize it. Spaceship 1 and 2 set off on their journey at the same time, and so their clocks are in sync. However, Spaceship 1 is not going to take the same route as Spaceship number 2. It is going to pass near the black hole. The concentric lines indicate the power of the black hole's distortion on space-time. weakest on the edge, and that it's most powerful in the centre. Spaceship One's clock starts to slow down as it passes into the sphere of influence of the black hole. Time begins to slow down. When it enters the inner region, it is travelling near the speed of light, and so for Spaceship One, time stops completely. If Spaceship One now rendezvous with Spaceship Two, we see that Spaceship Two has aged much more than Spaceship One.
We've been able to do experiments with subatomic particles that actually prove this happens. There's a classic one of these particles called muons that hit the Earth's upper atmosphere, or created when particles hit the Earth's upper atmosphere, and they're unstable. Half of them will vanish in a very short period of time, thousandths of a second. And so you know how many are being produced if you measure them at the top of a mountain. And if you look at the bottom of the mountain, which as they come down very fast, close to the speed of light, you can figure out how long that would have taken, a few thousandths of a second. And you know that a certain number of them should have decayed, vanished, because they're unstable. And when you measure that, it turns out that there's a lot more than there should be. So their clocks have to have slowed up. And it's a very easy effect to measure. And that sort of proved that this idea of time dilation was correct.
I see.
And justified Einstein's theories of relativity.
They sent clocks on an airplane back, I think it was back in the
Yeah, that was an early experiment done as well. They flew two aircraft away from each other at very high speed with very accurate clocks on board, and then compared them when they came back. And there was a tiny discrepancy around about what you would expect from theory of relativity. Even the GPS satellites we have, they actually have little routines built into their calculations that allow for the effects of relativity, the fact that they're going around so fast in a gravitational field of the Earth. And if that wasn't done, your GPS systems would be inaccurate. So you wouldn't be able to navigate if it weren't for the theory of relativity.
Well, they mustn't be doing it to my GPS, because it often sends me in places where I shouldn't be. Well, absolutely fascinating stuff there, David. We could talk about this all day. It's absolutely mind-blowing, but unfortunately we've ran out of time. So thank you very much for joining us today.
It's been a great pleasure, and thanks very much for having me.
And if you want to find out more, you can catch up with David at astronomy.ie to find the Astronomy Ireland website. And you can catch up with us, of course, on NearTV.ie. I hope you enjoyed the show. Take care. Great stuff there, and make sure you tune in next month for the final edition of SpaceTime, where David gives us an insight into just how big the universe is. But next up we have our film review section, and in this month's show the team are having a look at the latest instalment in the Terminator franchise, Terminator Genisys.
Hello, you're very welcome to the review show. My name is Aoife Ahern and I'm your host today. And today we have Alan Williams, filmmaker, and Ciarán Dowling, editor, and they're here today to talk about their short film, Forced. But first of all, we're going to talk about Terminator Genisys. So Alan, what did you think of Terminator Genisys?
What did I think of Terminator Genisys? Well, the first thing to say is I watched the original Terminator before I went to see it, just as a kind of a comparison, and there is no real comparison. The first film is a classic kind of horror in the vein of John Carpenter kind of slasher film. Terminator Genisys is kind of more your summer blockbuster, big way, not in the vein that Terminator 2 was, but more in the vein of the other two movies. So, did I like it? It was fine for what it was. It was a bit of entertainment. I think it's more aimed at a younger audience than the original first two movies, so in that vein it was fine. But for me, the original two, nowhere close.
And do you think it was a bit maybe of a rush job? Do you think they could have maybe put a bit more?
No, just with today's market the way it is, I think they're remaking Jurassic Park, they're rebooting a lot of things, they're cashing in on old favourites, because I think they say Hollywood is dying and they're running out of original ideas, and it's kind of true. We have more movies coming from other countries now, and Hollywood I think are kind of panicking. That's why we see a lot of superhero movies, cashing in on the name brands already. So it wasn't a terrible movie, and they got Arnie back for it, which was good for for the hype, and the special effects now were fantastic. I can't argue with that, but it didn't really have any kind of core heart or nothing the way as James Cameron. They originally came to him in a dream, Terminator did, and that's where the idea came from. And you can tell this is just about 12 different writers, and just trying to hit different points and different marks.
And Alan, would you give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Kind of thumbs a bit there, I would, for me now. But for other kids and younger generation, I hope they go back and look at the original Terminator movies. I really do, and then appreciate what James Cameron's vision was.
Thank you very much. And Ciarán, what about you?
I just want my money back, to be honest. It was alright. If you like popcorn and 2 hours in the dark, go see it, yeah. Thank
you very much, lads, for reviewing Terminator Genisys. Now we're going to talk about your short film, Forced. So, Alan, can you tell us a little bit about it? What was where did the idea come from?
The idea came from a couple of inspirations. Basically, I wanted to work on an idea where in the movie Office Space they bring in efficiency experts to see what people are useful to the company and what people aren't. So you pretty much you're interviewing for your job again.
Okay.
So, but I thought, what about if they're using it as a ruse, as a ploy to get rid of everyone, to make everyone work harder, compete against each other. So that was the original idea I came from when I was writing the script. But I needed a character, a deep character. So I had the central character of Ben Turner was also going through a personal crisis at the same time. So the two stories are interlinked. He's going through a breakup and he has drug and drink problems, so it's interlinked. So basically I went with that and I drew inspiration from different directors like David Fincher and stuff like that. And so I worked off that idea. Now, filming it was my first film. I worked on other films before as like cameraman and editor and stuff like that, but I wanted to do an idea myself. So
yeah.
Basically, when we filmed one of the other films first, then we moved on to mine and we had different locations and stuff like that. So yeah.
It was a 3-day shoot, was it?
It was a 3-day shoot, yeah.
It was 3 different locations kind of thing, but
Yeah.
there was pick-up days and everything like that. You know, it's always expected because when you get out to the location, you look at it and you're like, oh, we might do something over there, we might drop this or add a bit of that, like.
Very interesting, very interesting. And where can we see it? Is it out yet, or?
Well, no, I haven't. I've entered into a couple of festivals, so I want to see how it does in the festival before I make it available to the public. If it gets into the festivals, I've entered into Fingal, Waterford, Kerry and Dunleary, so if it gets into them, I'll be delighted. I might try a few more. If not, I might just make it available to the public.
Thank you very much, lads, for talking about your short film, Forced. So now, could you recommend any golden oldies for us?
I'm going to go with The Evil Dead because, you know, I don't know if anyone noticed, there's a remake now of a series, The Evil Dead, with Bruce Campbell in it. Now, Bruce Campbell, he's a B-film hero, so, you know, to go back to the original Sam Raimi, like, you know, it's still kind of current because even the prosthetic team that worked on that, you know, it's kind of what it's known for, all the guts and stuff. It was used in Breaking Bad for Gus's head when he got blown up, so like, It's, I mean, it's still current. It's just classic. Cabin in the Woods took out from that as well. So
I think Sam Raimi is kind of a testament to kind of all independent filmmakers. You know, he says, use what you have. Like, he uses his car in all his films now, and he used that in the first one, so it's
iconic, that car.
Yeah, it really is, and like I learned that as well in my film. I use my car, so
unfortunately,
he's a testament
now, but
putting my film again. No, he's a testament to kind of all aspiring filmmakers, I think. So Evil Dead is a very good film, very good kind of for the horror genre, and he kind of redefined the horror genre with Evil Dead 2 with mixing horror and comedy. So
Army of Darkness as well.
Yeah, for the trilogies.
What's your golden oldie?
My golden oldie would be film Kids. Harmony Korine wrote it, penned it, and fantastic film about the epidemic of the AIDS virus in the 90s and the way kids interact, and just it's set in New York. I think it's set in Brooklyn. Not too sure. I should be more sure, but
I haven't actually seen
it's a
it,
fantastic film. It is. It's a really good performance by a lot of young actors as well, and I really recommend that.
Brilliant. We've had Alan Williams and Ciarán Dowling with us today, and I've been Aoife Ahern. Thank you very much, and see you next month.
Now, Greece has been in the news a lot recently due to the country's unstable economic situation threatening to push it out of the European Union. Now, the day before the Greeks went to the polls to vote on terms of a new bailout plan, we took to the streets to get the opinion of some Irish people who supported a no vote and why.
I think it could go either way. I'm very nervous about it, but I think on balance it will go no.
I'm Angelos Panagotopoulos and I live in Limerick. I am Greek. At the moment, we've got an attack on democracy on Greece.
As far as the vote is concerned, like whether you vote yes or no, it doesn't really matter. You're voting for austerity. I would be, you know, as I say, I stand with the Greek people. But like, if you vote yes, you want the EU's austerity. If you vote no, you want Syriza's austerity. So what's the difference?
Well, the vote seems to be tight, but I'm telling you what. Yesterday, after a long week of scaremongering on TV, there were more than 100,000 strong.
A trade union rally when I was down there were thousands upon thousands of people at the rally, and ordinary Greeks that I got to speak to anyway, the ones who could speak English, they were well up for a fight. They're not taking this lying down. So I'd be hopeful and optimistic that they'll vote no to reject austerity.
I think it would be terrible if it did come out a yes. I know I would be very disappointed. They're very brave to call the referendum. If it came out as a yes, I'd say Syriza would probably be crushed.
You know, you hardly go for, you know, a quarter of an hour without seeing people rummaging in bins. And people with decent clothes, like people that obviously, you know, had been working.
If there is a yes vote, then that means that the message that the Troika is sending out there is that there is no alternative. We're still saying that there is an alternative and it's not the Troika's way.
You're 3 weeks without your income, 3 months without your income, everything just builds up. So it really is like crushing these people. But to be relying on food parcels in what's supposed to be a modern country, part of Europe, the great European ideal.
I'm not married to the idea of the EU. If the people are not better off under the EU, why would you stay with it?
No matter what the vote is on Monday, things will never be the same. Because people are out in the streets, people have mobilized in Greece, in Dublin, in London, in Madrid, and everywhere in Europe and beyond to support the idea that there is an alternative out there.
I'm with the Greek people 1,000%, and we need everyone behind them. We're in the same boat, and look at our politicians. They made a show of us because we want to show the Greek people that that's not us. They're not speaking for us. They're speaking for themselves.
They get informed about the Irish ministers through the dominant TV channels who say, oh, Ireland is against us as well, and all these countries are against us, so we need to cave in and go on and vote whatever Troika is saying. But they're also aware about the work of the Greek Solidarity Committee in Ireland.
They really do see that this is a system bearing down on us all, and you know, more acutely there, but also here. I think that there's a visceral identification with the struggles of Greek people.
Well, that's just about it for this month's show. But before we go, we're going to play you out some music from South African musician Cathryn Green, who recently attended one of NearFM's sessions. But until next time, from all of us here, take care.